Tomba Revenge. Chapter 16.4. The Royal Future. Hello, welcome back to my reading of Tomba's Revenge and providing you with a glimpse deep into the world of Harry's wife through the prism of narcissism. Meanwhile, Harry's wife's future was being considered by palace officials. In the midst of another developing royal crisis, William had been criticized for skiing in Switzerland rather than attending a Commonwealth Day service in Westminster Abbey. And Prince Andrew's behavior was even more troubling. Banned in 2011 from representing Britain as a trade ambassador. After a succession of complaints about his crude behavior, Air Miles Andy was exposed by the media to be notorious for his travel expenses and taking loans from unsuitable businessmen. Prince Andrew is a narcissist, and I've explained in a number of videos about him, starting at a very royal narcissist number 5 and then others about Prince Andrew, and if you'd like to explore those, please do so. Returning to the publication Worse, the exposure of his relationship with a convicted American pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, was certain to embarrass the Queen. Although the photograph of the two men walking in New York's Central Park had been published by News of the World in February 2011, Epstein's 2007 conviction for pedophilia had resurfaced for scrutiny in Florida in 2017. Randy Andy's serial misconduct was scrutinized by Christopher Gate, the Queen's tall authority of private secretary wearing Whitehall's most polished black shoes. Where that would lead was uncertain. Gates' greater concern, shared by Prince Philip, was the risk that Charles bows to the monarchy, Charles's image as an adulterer and an old-fashioned meddler, adultery being something that analysis would commit, having no emotional empathy for the parties, affected a sense of entitlement and poor boundary recognition. The palace believed needed to be transformed to become popular. Charles should refrain from controversy and emerge as a discreet modernizer with a common touch that Charles knew required William and Harry's help. Summoning his two sons, Charles' agenda at their meeting was familiar ever since Prince Philip had told the family's way-ahead meeting in 1996 that to survive the monarchy needed to slim down. Charles had tried to reduce the numbers appearing on Buckingham Palace balcony. Among the first to be cut after 2002 was Prince Andrew and his daughters. By 2012 Charles had limited the numbers to merely 6. The Queen, Charles and Camilla, William and Kate and Harry. Over the following years, there were always doubts whether the slimmed-down version would survive, with pressure from the Rhino royals compelled Charles to allow them to reappear on the balcony. That argument re-emerged in August 2017 with Philip's retirement, and in anticipation of the Queen undertaking fewer public duties, the monarchy's future rested upon William and Kate. Now the fact that it rests upon those two individuals, which basically the apple of Harry's wife's eye and the nemesis, is a problem for her, and it amounts to a threat to control the nemesis. Repeated appearance and being spoken about favorably, would evoke huge sensations of envy in Harry's wife, driven by her narcissism, so that she would have to respond to it. The purpose of ensuring that she took steps to protect herself by way of the assertion of control. Kate, in essence, was a walking threat to control the couple. William and Kate were to be promoted as a focal point for the nation. Eventually, their children would also be asked to represent the monarchy. In that scenario, Harry would be heavily engaged for the next 10 years, and then, as his royal duties declined, he would be free to pursue his own life. Harry agreed to the plan without mentioning his own frustrations. Organizing his charities and starring at a few public meetings was not satisfactory. In the long term, living in a small house in Kensington Palace was becoming joyless. Life with Harry's wife promised an escape. Gates suspected that Harry, with Harry's wife's influence of course, was looking for an alternative future. Looming was the broadcast of a soul-searching TV documentary made by William and Harry about Diana. That was certain to cause problems, highlighting Gates' inability to coordinate, let alone control the four princes, Charles, Harry, William, and Andrew. He feared that their antics made protecting their privacy harder and could damage the monarchy. Excessive exposure, risk reducing the public's respect for the royal family. Too late, Gate discovered that Harry had been encouraged by Harry's wife. Too awful phrase, share his truth about his mental state. This, of course, is typical of Harry's wife exploiting the vulnerability of Harry under the auspices of compassion and caring. part of that veneer of demonstrating that she truly cares about him. She does so by encouraging to speak out that it's a sort of wokeism to talk about that mental health, although of course William and Kate have been doing so and Harry in his own way before this. But once again, her narcissism under the auspices of controlling him and appearing to care is encouraging him to speak out. But of course, what it actually does by collateral consequences, make a rod for his own back by exposing these potential weaknesses. They could, of course, then be used against him, as is always the case with the narcissist. Anything that is said or done can immediately be picked up and used against you in the golden period. It might be the case that, you know that you've got a little bit of a large nose. But during the golden period with the narcissist, your nose is regarded as beautiful, regal, imperious. I really love your nose. It fits the frame of your face beautifully, says the narciss, flattering you. You always felt a little bit sensitive about your big schnauzer, and consequently the fact that you're being flattened in such a way, feels really good, and it's nice to have that support. It's a pleasure in a sense for someone to view it, not as a great big conch, but to speak about it in such a nice way. But then you become devalued as the intimate part of primary source in a sustained devaluation. What happens? Well, all that was good about you was now bad. You've moved from white to black. The golden period is over, at least for now. And instead you find yourself in the sustained devaluation at this juncture. The narcissist uses your nose against you. Oi, big nose, Pinocchio, wow, that nose is so big. I could hand my jacket on it, hook nose, which nose you become upset. Why are you being an ambassador about the size of your nose when the masses are so supportive about it beforehand? Quite simply because now you're painted black in the same way the narcissist praises you. I love the fact that you look after your body as a body to die for. You've got an arse so tight, it's bouncing off the walls. I love the fact that you have to eat a sensible diet and wear good clothing and buy all those potions and lotions and really respect all of that when you're painted black. You spend far too much time down the gym and not enough time with me, in the amount of money that you spend on clothing and potions and lotions is obscene. Have you seen how much you've spent last week, and what's all this dieting for is not doing you any good? You know, you still got to ask the size of the house, size of outside of the house. So I wouldn't bother if I were you, and I'm sick of eating this shit. I want a burger and I want one. Now, what are you going to do about it? The victim is confused, perplexed. The very thing that they were lauded for, the things that they were praised for, are thrown back in their face. And this is the risk for Prince Harry by supposedly opening up under the auspices of being protected and cared for by Harry's wife. He is in effect creating millstone that would be used against him. We conclude this section and then look to the next with regard to the final section of chapter 16.